Good afternoon. My name is Ananya. I'm currently studying at UT Dallas as a freshman, and today I will attempt to understand the concept of the divine, or the supreme being, as understood by seers of Vedic literature, practicing Hindus and Hindu spiritual leaders of today. I will use the term divine as opposed to God, as the term God has biblical connotations and may influence mine or the audience's understanding of the depiction of the divine in Hinduism, as learned mainly from the Vedas. The common understanding of everyday Hindus is that the Devatas, the Trimurti, the avatars of Vishnu, and the Devis, Durga, Lakshmi, and Saraswati, are conceptually equivalent to what is generally considered as the supreme God in Abrahamic religion. In layman's terms, these Hindu entities are the highest form of divinity per the Vedas. And I will be comparing this understanding to Hindu literature. The forms on the screen are the various forms of the divine in Hinduism, and I will delve into the differences of these forms. The Atman, or soul, is an infinitesimal part of the Brahman, and the Atman can simply be compared to a water droplet from the ocean, or the Brahman. The Atman goes through many cycles of birth and rebirth based on its karma. Or in simple terms, karma is the concept of reaping what you sow. Good deeds lead to positive consequences, and poor choices lead to negative repercussions. One's karmic state affects the reincarnation of the Atman. And all Atman is part of the Brahman. As stated in the Upanishads, I am Atma Brahma. The self is Brahman, and Aham Brahmasmi, or I am Brahman. The goal of the Atman, whether understood by the mind or not, is for the Atman to merge permanently with the Brahman. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. borrowed this concept that all Atman is part of the Brahman, and not just those who do good deeds. He used this understanding as a basis to ask his civil rights demonstrators not to lash out at those who were against their stand for equal rights for all. This was possible because he understood that all humans had a part of divine within them, and not just the nice folks. The concept of divinity being found within all of us is supported within the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 15, verse 8. This verse translates to, "The living entities in this conditioned world are my external fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. We are all part of Brahman, but because of our limitations, such as our senses and our ego, we are unable to understand Brahman." There are 33 Devatas mentioned in the Vedas. The 12 Adityas represent Surya, the sun deity, and are meant to guard and protect all beings and uphold laws. The 12 deities correspond to each of the months in the year and the 12 spokes of the wheel of time. The 11 Rudras represent 5 abstractions: bliss, knowledge, thought, breath or life, and speech, as well as the 5 names of Shiva and the Atman. The 8 Vasus are elemental deities who represent different aspects of nature. And the 2 Asvins are twin deities who represent healing and medicine. Within these 33 Devatas, Vishnu and 5 forms of Shiva are here, but no mention of Brahma, the creator god. Brahma appeared later in the Vedas and during the Puranas. A common misconception about the Hindu faith is that the idea that there are 330 million deities or Devatas. This misunderstanding stems from a misinterpretation of the phrase Thrice Tritim Shati Koti, mentioned in the Atharva Veda, Yajurveda, and Satapatha Brahmana. This misinterpretation occurs as the term Koti has multiple meanings. In Sanskrit, it means type as well as crore or 10 million. The multiple meanings of this term has caused confusion between many people. But Hindu scholars insist that there are only 33 deities as opposed to 330 million, as the 33 deities are listed within the Vedas and are recurring figures within other Hindu scriptures, such as the Bhagavad Gita and the Ramayana. This misunderstanding causes many Hindus and non-Hindus to believe that Hinduism has a large number of gods, or is a polytheistic religion when in reality it is not. Another one of the greatest misunderstandings about the divine in Hinduism is the belief that the Devatas are the highest form of divinity, when in fact the Devatas are not separate entities, but simply manifestations of the Brahman. Each Devata is a doorway unto the infinite supreme reality, which is Brahman. The Devatas represent various personalities and forms, therein allowing us to reflect and understand the true nature of divinity. This is supported in chapter 9, verse 23 of the Bhagavad Gita. This verse translates to, "Those who are devotees of other gods and who worship them with faith actually worship only me, O son of Kunti, but they do so in a wrong way." This further supports the idea that there is only one true divine who merely takes on various forms. All deities are but a pluralistic manifestation of this divine. The terms Brahman, Brahma, and Brahmin are often misunderstood and are a source of confusion. When Hinduism is discussed or preached, the difference between Brahman and Brahma often may not be clarified, and Vedic readings and interpretations that are actually pointing to Brahman are often misinterpreted as Brahma. Brahman, or Varna, is sometimes pronounced and spelled often like Brahman. Brahman is the divinity in Hinduism, the one ultimate reality, and it is sometimes pronounced as Brahm, sometimes as Brahman. And Brahma is the creator Devata, one of the masculine forms of Devatas, often represented with 4 faces. It is believed that he creates the universe, and since universes are always in a constant cycle of creation and destruction, he also goes through the same birth and death cycle. Brahma temples are rare, and there are only a handful of known temples dedicated to him. Brahma's mention started appearing later in Vedic texts, and early Hindu scriptures mention other trinities of Devatas, which does not include Brahma. Brahma is not part of the 33 Devatas that are reoccurring in Hindu literature. And Brahmin is the name assigned to a Varna or category of people whose duty was to learn and teach Vedic knowledge. The Varna at first was fluid and was not birth-based, but rather based on one's personal abilities. This and other Varnas later got codified to be assigned by birth. As the Brahman is so difficult to understand, names such as the absolute, supreme reality, or ultimate reality are given to allow us to get an idea of the power of the Brahman. The attributes like formless, genderless, transcendent, limitless are given to Brahman and are so broad, as Brahman is the ultimate reality and cannot be known and cannot be put into a bound. Ordinary beings cannot understand the complexity of the Brahman, and those who claim to comprehend it have not truly understood the idea, per the Vedas. The difficulty in understanding and knowing Brahman logically is well explained in the Kena Upanishad. This verse translates to, "If you think that you know Brahman well, then you know little indeed, for the form of Brahman that you see as conditioned in living beings is but a trifle. Therefore you should inquire further about Brahman. Brahman can only be experienced when all the sensory activity ceases to have an impact on the mind, when the mind itself is free from the movement of thoughts and sense objects, and the torment of desires, which are the prime cause of all human activity and suffering, and subsides into quietude. There are difficulties in translating the Brahman in human terms. To define the concept is to limit it, and by defining the Brahman and giving it various attributes is simply done to create a near approximation so humans can understand and relate to the concept easier. Brahman cannot be known in a state of duality, as he is not an object which can be known. He is known only in a subjective way when the duality of the known and the knower are absent. That is, to know Brahman, you must become one with Brahman without any division or duality. Neti neti, not this or not that, is a principle of negating all rationalization and distractions in the attempt to understand Brahman. Rather than seeing Brahman as pervading the universe, they speak of Brahman as wholly transcendent, describable in human terms only by saying what Brahman is not. It is not coarse, not fine, not short, not long, odorless, tasteless, without eye, without ear. Two negatives are used to eliminate every possible specification that one may come up to describe Brahman. Nirguna Brahma, or no qualities or attributes, and Saguna, with qualities and attributes, are two aspects of Brahman. Per Adi Shankara, Nirguna Brahma is Parabrahman and is the high state of Brahman. Understanding Nirguna Brahman is difficult and can only be achieved when a person is in a non-dual state of complete knowledge of one's Atman or soul, as being same as the transcendental Brahman. Saguna is considered to be the Brahman that can be perceived through the limited mind or intellect that is crippled because it sees everything through the lens of Maya or illusion. Whereas Nirguna Brahma is something only perceived by Nirguna Brahman, and our Atman, which, when in non-dual state, is a state of merging with Nirguna Brahman and one with it. In this paper, I've demonstrated that the Vedas have deliberated extensively on the nature of the divine. Hinduism is not polytheistic, as there is one divine who takes on many forms, but it is not monotheistic either, as Brahman is not an exclusive being. Divinity, as outlined in Hinduism, starts from the smallest part of the divine, the Atman. Then there are the Devatas, the Avatars, and the Ishvaras, and the Trimurti, also collectively understood to be the representation of the divine, and also collectively known as Saguna Brahman. Thank you.
I just had a couple of comments. The 33 gods, you have Prajapati in Vedic times. He's the precursor for Brahma, the creator God. And also I don't want to quiz you on the Upanishads, but where did you get that definition of the 33,000? 33 million.
Or 330.
Yeah.
I saw it in an article.
Okay. Because there is a specific text, you might want to look it up, in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, where they count down and show that all these are but form. So it makes your point, but it is a very nice textual reference. You can get that. Because I don't know this one, this particular one. It's my ignorance. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Once again, I'd like to congratulate you, Danya. It's wonderful research effort that you put down, and a very nice way of putting some definitions. I think it's about what you pointed out, that there's always a confusion between these three terms: Brahma, Brahman, and Brahman. And I think you've done an excellent job of trying to help us understand what that difference is.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was a very good paper, very well laid out and carefully explained. I just had an issue with one of the things you said, which is that we are not polytheistic, we are monotheistic. I don't find that helpful, because that is a Christian and Islamic framing of the problem. And when one answers a question that has been framed in a certain way, one can only lose. I mean, one has to either falsify oneself, or one has to give the answer that is required. So this is sort of it's like an inquisition situation where someone comes up to Indians and says, do you believe in many gods, or do you believe in the one true God? And the question has been framed in such a way that any answer you give, so you would either say, I believe in many, in which case you don't believe in the one true God, or you believe in the one true God, which is basically giving up all your gods. Or you say, yes, I have many gods, but they're all manifestations of the one true God, which is again giving up the many gods. And that impoverishes. I think one has to learn to affirm polytheism, not as a temporary or deficient form of monotheism. I think all Hindu gods are equally existent, equally valid, and that question has to be rejected. It has to be, you really think there's only one God? You have to turn the question around, and the question of, and problematize their presuppositions. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.